Hello and welcome to the program. It's been a big week for politics in Nigeria. With less than a year to the 2019 presidential elections, President Muhammadu Buhari has now declared his intention to run for another term of office. It's not in any way a big surprise. Many had long expected this to happen despite calls now in some quarters for the president not to run. The president made his ambition known during the National Executive Committee meeting of his party, the All Progressives Congress APC. He informed senior members of the party at a closed-door session that he would be running again. And shortly after that, the presidency released a statement confirming it and saying the decision was based on the clamor of Nigerians for him to run. Now, Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong and the spokesperson of the APC, Bolaji Abdullahi, both addressed journalists after the NEC meeting on the issue. And this is what they had to say.
The President felt so happy and excited that because of this reunion and because of this unity in the party, he will now consider and also accept the recommendations or the appeals by several members of the society, the party, and everybody that he contest this election. And she accepted that he's going to contest. He's going to contest again as the for the position of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
So as far as APC is concerned, the storm that everyone was expecting will happen did not happen. The collapse that people were expecting will happen from start from this NEC meeting today did not happen. So we are leaving the NEC meeting today reunited as a strong family of progressive politics in Nigeria. And like Governor Lalong has said, we are also happy, and you could see that our countenance has changed. We are happy that His Excellency Mr. President has granted our request and he has announced his wish to recontest in 2019.
Now, the president also spoke further on the decision when he hosted the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, in London. He told the religious leader that he decided to announce his intention early so that the country will focus on other important things like security and the economy and not be distracted by the politics of 2019. Now, the president's announcement comes at a time when he has seemingly lost some of his backers during the 2015 general election when he defeated the president at the time, Goodluck Jonathan. Now, among them is former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is now leading the campaign against the president, asking Nigerians not to give him a second term. The president, however, retains the support of majority of his party members, including the governors of his party, who have repeatedly asked him to recontest. And even though he's lost some of the goodwill he had in 2015, he still remains popular among his core supporters and the candidate to beat. And it also remains to be seen if he would be challenged for the party's presidential ticket. But there's no doubt that the final decision rests with Nigerians, who will decide if the president will return to office in 2019. Joining me now is the president's spokesperson, Malam Garba Shehu, who joins us from State House in Abuja. Malam Shehu, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, this declaration, not a big surprise as such, but why do you think Nigerians should give President Buhari a second term?
Well, let me begin by saying that the decision of the president to seek the APC ticket for a second term in office is indeed much welcome, principally because the president could also have declined this pressure upon him to contest. He has a deep passion for the country. He's deeply committed to the progress of the country. And this certainly is not so much arising from desperation for the office. His passion is not for the office, but for the country. So that it should be understood in that regard. And two, why should he seek a second term? One, because Nigerians are clamoring for it, as you said in your intro. And two, because the country has begun to experience, to see real progress on the key policies of the administration upon which the party itself campaigned. On the area of security of the country, pushing back and ending insurgency in the northeast and vandalism of economic assets in the delta, on fighting corruption. So much has been achieved to the point that that his colleagues on the continent, the African Union, decided that he will be the champion for the war against corruption in this year. And of course, when you're looking at the economy also, given the situation that led to the recess and all of the, vandalism to which the economy was subject, so much work to reconstruct, to rebuild. We've succeeded in blocking and the loopholes. Now the thing is that you must rebuild the economy, and so much has been, especially in view of the ongoing efforts to diversify, with the intensive efforts to invest in agriculture, grow it, and the results of which are beginning to show.
Some of these achievements you have talked about, the opposition party doesn't see things that way. A number of Nigerians do not see things that way. But let's talk about party politics now. Fact is that there are still problems within the APC. Do you expect to see any challenge at all mounted against the president within his party? I mean, do you expect to see, for instance, other aspirants come out and indicate interest in the same position and probably, want to take the president on, talking about party primaries now?
Well, the party constitution is very clear about competency or qualification to run. The constitution would not bar anybody from running against the president. The president himself, being a thoroughbred Democrat, will not clamp down on opposition within the political party. So we are not ruling it out at this time. Is the president likely to pick the ticket? I'm absolutely convinced that, given the unanimity, with which the party, the NEC, the National Executive Committee of the party, received, his offer to serve one more term, with everyone standing on their feet, giving a solid, loud ovation and cheering him and accepting it in total. It's an encouraging sign that that the party would eventually and hopefully follow the processes. But in the end, President Buhari is, in my view, most likely to just take it.
Now, let's talk about security and the economy. These will definitely be big issues during the electioneering campaign for next year's election. Do you think this president has done enough in terms of securing this country and managing the economy of the country to get a second term of office?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Because if you are talking about security, one needs to reflect on where we were coming from and where we now are. In several of our cities in the country, that had experienced terrorism, the Boko Haram terrorism, for instance, that it was a big problem. On Fridays, people stayed from their mosques. On Sundays, people stayed away from churches because the Boko Haram bombed, places of worship, marketplaces, and public at will, and they got away with it. Boko Haram had reached Benin and was marching towards Lagos. So to now have a situation in which they are just hanging on to the fringes of Lake Chad, and even that is being challenged. They no longer control Nigerian territory. They had a caliphate before with the flag and the system of taxation. That is all gone. So it's a finishing job. We will get there. Now, looking at the economy, people need to focus on the strides that are being made. We dipped into a recession. We are now out of it, and all of the sectors of the economy are indicating growth. Look at what we are doing with agriculture, for instance. We are importing 90% less rice than we used to. A lot of the wastage in importation of food items, we are using money now for infrastructure. The World Bank, all of the assessments have come. Nigeria being adjudged as being among the 10 top reforming economies. We have climbed up the ease of doing business scale, 24 places, and all of the things are happening. Huge inflow of foreign investment and the boom in the stock market. In January, actually, Nigeria's stock market was the best returning stock market all over the world. So that's indicating to you clearly that the economy is healthy and is growing under the president.
But you must also admit that unemployment remains a very big problem. And when people look at the economy, they look at unemployment and they say, look, it appears whatever you have said, some of these some of these things that you say that the president has done, some people would say it's not actually reflecting because unemployment is still very high.
I agree with you, unemployment is high, but it was a build-up. These things didn't accumulate within the 2-3 years of the President Buhari administration. Before President Buhari came into office, there was a particular governor in a given state, I won't mention, that hadn't employed a graduate for the 8 years, 2 terms of governorship in a particular state, had not employed one single graduate. So these things had built up to a proportion that is almost unmanageable. But you also are aware that this administration, for the first time in the records of this country, had unfolded an audacious, social investment program, by which, as we speak to you now, more than 200,000 graduates have been enlisted, and about another 300,000 are just waiting to be commissioned. And we also have, a scheme by which payoffs are given. A social, about 5,000 naira paid to about 300,000 families across the federation, to the poorest of the poor families. So government is conscious of all of these things, and all of these things are being unfolded. And this is why a second term is warranted. Certainly, this is not the best time to change a president.
Of course, I just have to ask you what you make of what the opposition, especially the opposition PDP, has been saying. For instance, they've accused this government of not initiating projects, that basically what the president has been doing is to complete projects now initiated by the PDP government, that the APC government, that President Buhari has not initiated his own project. So basically what your government has been doing is just to complete projects now initiated by the previous government.
Well, if anybody had the love of this country in their hearts, assuming they had it in PDP, the thing would have been to praise President Muhammadu Buhari for completing abandoned projects. This country has this negative attitude of, politicians, leaders completing only projects that they initiate. Once there is a change of government, all of the projects in which huge investments are made, they are laid off. Now, what is wrong in when you meet Abuja-Kaduna Railway 80% complete? You do the 20% and it is now in use. Look at what is happening Port Harcourt-Enugu. I just give you an example. Expressway. For more than 20 years as a student, I knew that road as being work in progress. Look at the much that has been achieved in the last 2 years under this administration. Now, to say that we have not initiated any, no. Look at all of the things that are happening with Abuja has a new runway. How many years have we been waiting for a runway in the new airport? With all of the lack of safety and dangers that are being pointed at. That's just one project. But look at all of the things that are happening with the roads, the bridges, power. We inherited 2,600 megawatts. We are on 7,000 megawatts today. We have more than doubled power. We are doing railway. All of the cities, all the state capitals in the country will be connected with modern railway system. New projects are going on. Those that are not completed will all be completed.
How worried are you about the third force that former President Obasanjo is championing? Whether you like it or not, the former president actually supported the current president in 2015, and some people say his support is actually crucial. And now he is campaigning against the president, leading the third force and calling for, calling on Nigerians basically not to vote for the president.
Well, 2 things I will say. With due respect to the former president and all of those who had spoken against second term for President Muhammadu Buhari, election in 2019 will be decided by 180 million Nigerians. It will not be determined, it will not be decided by a guru politician or whoever they are. I want to make it clear that it's a democratic country, and election will be won by the candidate with the highest number of popular votes. President Buhari will get those popular votes. Now, the second thing is, Are we scared of a third force or whatever? My question to you is, do you see it having any traction anywhere? Does it have a traction? Is it there, out there?
Very good question. Let's look at the Southeast. In 2015, the president did not do well there at all. And I can't say at the moment that the president is very much liked in the Southeast. Do you think this president has done enough to win the hearts and minds of the people of that region so that by 2019, he gets a significant number of votes from that part of the country?
The president has done more than enough to warrant being chosen as a president in the Southeast and all over Nigeria. But the Southeast in particular had cried to the hearing of everyone over the years about infrastructure. If you see the massive roads projects that are going on, every major federal road is getting attention in the Southeast, including, the second Niger bridge, about which so much deception had been made. We had a president in the past who had laid the foundation, who had laid the sword for that bridge 2 times. Came the second time because he had forgotten that he had laid the sword before, and they achieved nothing. Look at what is going on there now. That bridge is being done. Now, who are you talking to in terms of who are you listening to in saying that they will not vote for president in the Southeast? 2 things clearly will work for the Southeast in a Buhari second-term presidency. The entire Southeast had felt excluded from the nation's number 1 office, and they're in a hurry to grab it. How do they get it? Which is the quickest path to the presidency? Is it by bringing in somebody new who will take 8 more years, or President Buhari who is finishing in 4 years? This is appealing for many Southeast people. But above all else, and I'm sure that you are aware that, in fact, the most popular political party in the Southeast, ABGA, no matter what anybody will say, ABGA has adopted President Muhammadu Buhari as candidate. Or some leaders have spoken along this line, including senior members of that party in elective positions. Because the thing is that it's a win-win situation for them if President Buhari takes a second term. So we see a huge opportunity in the Southeast. Agriculture is growing. Look at all of the things that are happening with Ebonyi in particular, Imo, and infrastructure. So what more do they expect? I think that they are quite happy with what we are doing.
Let me just quickly touch on one issue you talked about there. The president, a Southeast presidency now in 2023. Of course, on the face of it, it just would make much sense for the Southeast, for instance, to support President Buhari, because President Buhari would, of course, be doing 4 years if he won in 2019. But the issue is, some people from that region have been saying, well, they are not absolutely sure that it's going to play out that way, that even the president himself has not given that commitment, that if he does the next 4 years, that the presidency would shift to the southeast of the country.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it will make sense. This presidency is not in President Buhari's pocket. It's not in his pocket to dish out to whoever he likes. He's not going to work out that way. What it suggests is that the Southeast political entity would be working with other Nigerians, to get this thing in 4 years. So it depends on who are they talking to. They must speak to other Nigerians and engage everyone, and they stand the best chance of getting it 4 years than if they had waited, if they were to wait 8 more years. That's the point we're making.
Now, at over 70, you must admit, some people would say President Buhari is not in the best of shape when it comes to health. Now, do you think that this president would have enough strength now to take part in the rigors of electioneering campaign, go around the length and breadth of this country campaigning? It's certainly going to be a very tough ask for someone who is over 70. And I would also want you to react to something, for instance, that a senator of the APC, Senator Shehu Sani, now said a couple of days ago that it would have been nice if the president had basically picked a younger person from the party to finish up his term.
Well, two things I would like to say. One is that, you know that the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari didn't just happen by chance. It came after 3 trials, and the 4th time he succeeded. And he succeeded because Nigerians were just tired of being deceived. They were tired of leaders who would come and just have no other preoccupation than to steal their wealth. Now, President Buhari is totally a different kind of leader because he's not a greedy person. It's not about money, about homes, about buying cars and aircraft and foreign bank accounts. That's not President Muhammadu Buhari. So Nigerians on their own said we are tired of all of this set of, so they place this premium on personal integrity. I assure you that this is the rarest commodity you'll find among Nigerian leaders. President Muhammadu Buhari has it. And it's appealing to our masses of the people. So that's as far as it's concerned. Talking about his health, I interact with him in the course of my duty. My own judgment, it may not be medically, it may not be a competent one in terms of medical opinion, is that to me he appears to be, in fact, far stronger, far healthier now than he had come in 2015. But in fact, not even minding that. The thing is that I don't think that medically that there's a correlation between intelligence and efficiency and good judgment and the age. Some of the young people we have had in positions of authority in this country had collapsed and died. They had breached trust. They had exercised wrong judgment. As an African, President Muhammadu Buhari places high on the scale of wisdom, because this is something wisdom in our own African, context, culturally and all of that, sociologically. There's a lot in store in terms of wisdom with people who are older in terms of their own age. I assure you that there are things that President Muhammadu Buhari did as military head of state when he was in 30 to 40 years. He probably will not be doing them today. So, there are always two sides to a given situation. Is he medically, is he mentally and physically good enough for the job? My own judgment is he is absolutely fit, good enough to go.
And you're not saying this because you're the spokesperson of the president?
Well, I'm saying to you that in all sincerity, I believe that the president can do 4 more years and would be an even better president than we have seen in the last 4 years.
Malam Garba Shehu, thank you very much for your time with us. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country?
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that band.
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.